Hey, I'm Michael Goodfriend. I'm the executive producer of the Play On Podcasts. And, we have worked with so many incredible artists throughout all of these series that we've done, starting with Macbeth, then going to Pericles, A Midsummer Night's Dream. And now we are well into Coriolanus, the Play On Podcast series that was translated by Sean San Jose, adapted by Catherine Eaton. And, so many of the actors that we cast in these podcasts are what a lot of us in theater call working actors, people who have done all sorts of things, continue to do all sorts of things to make a living. And there are so many things that go into being an actor. I thought it would be really interesting and really good to talk to Ching Valdes-Aran. She plays Volumnia in Coriolanus. That's Coriolanus's mother. And she comes from such a diverse background as an actor. Her performance is so memorable in this phenomenal series. I wanted to bring her in and just talk to her about how she draws her inspiration for the characters that she creates, and where it all comes from, the grist for the mill, so to speak. Ching, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm not very comfortable in interviews like this. I don't think I've ever done a podcast interview. Is this a podcast? I'm not sure. But anyway.
This is a podcast within a podcast.
Within a podcast. I'm more comfortable if nobody sees me and you just hear my voice. But anyway.
You're so beautiful. It's great to see you and great to have the visual to go with this amazing voice that we hear. Ching,
Thank you, but we'll see.
You're an OBIE award-winning actor. What's an OBIE?
It's the off-Broadway OBIE. It's an off-Broadway award given to actors at a certain time during that season. It's like, I think, equivalent to the Tonys, but it's all the downtown off-Broadway, off-Broadway theater.
It's the award that they give to the cool people. It's the official stamp of being cool.
Yes, I would love to hear that. But
tell us, where did you get the beginning? How did it begin for you? How did you end up being a New York-based actor who wins?
Oh my God,
OBIE award?
That's a long story. Very long story. I never knew that I was going to ever be an actor. I grew up in a very small town in the Philippines, in the northernmost part of the Philippines. And basically, I was in school dances once a year, or singing and dancing, and basically that's what it is. And then in high school, at 14, I started dancing with a professional dance company, and touring all over Asia and the Philippines. But that was that. I didn't know I was ever going to be an actor. And I knew that I wanted to come to New York when I was 4 years old, because my parents lived here for a year. My dad came here for his medical internship. And when they came back, my mother basically, I knew they showed us pictures of all of New York. She fell in love with New York. And I'm the only one of my siblings. We were 4 of us then when they came back. And I was 4 years old. And my mother basically said to us, that I remember, is that if it's not that I don't love you, but if I had my life all over again, I would not marry as early as I have, and I would have traveled. And since then, the images of New York has stayed in my my subconscious. So that's how it started. But then when I started dancing and doing school plays, that was just a hobby for me. But I knew that I was coming to New York. And after college, my parents said, you can do anything you want as long as you finish a bachelor's degree in science.
Where was college?
I went to high school at an all-girls high school, Maryknoll College, run by the Maryknoll sisters. And then I went to the University of the Philippines. And I was still dancing with a professional company there, outside from being in school and being and a glee club. And then when I came to New York, I basically wanted to be a dancer.
So that was your first passion was dance.
Dance, yeah.
Did any dancers or dance groups in particular that you were inspired by as a young girl?
Oh my God, yes. I was 16 when I saw Carmen de Lavalade, and she came with Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey was not existing then, but when I saw them dance, that's when inspired me to be even more a dancer or so. And in fact, eventually I met Carmen de Lavalade here on audition when I was already auditioning for acting or something like that.
So if you were to describe Carmen de Lavalade, the work, the imagery, can you describe it? Can you describe what you saw or the feeling that it gave you?
It was Carmen de Lavalade and Harry Belafonte that I saw at our Coliseum in the city over there. And it just like lifted me somewhere else. It lifted my spirit somewhere else. And I think to think back, in hindsight, all I know is when I am dancing or when I am on stage, I basically don't remember anything. I'm not Ching, the person. I am somebody else, or I am lifted somewhere else.
You're in. I think it's Martha Graham calls it. You're more living life when you're performing.
Yeah,
you're more living life.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the experience of growing up in the Philippines?
Well, I think, growing up in the 50s, it was like 50s, 60s. It was very different then than now, the Philippines now. It's totally different. I come from a rural area. I didn't grow up with television. I didn't see any plays. We didn't have, we only have the radio in the evening. We only have electricity in the evening. I was always out with friends, all bicycling, and basically it's that, but it's not that anymore now.
Do you feel like that had something to do with the artist that you became?
Yes, I think so, primarily, because that's all he had is the audio. Although I must say that every weekend, my parents brought all of us on Friday night at 8:00 to movies. That's where I grew up. It is movies, Hollywood movies, mainly musicals, everything that's Hollywood. So there is a saying in a history book in the Philippines where we were brought up with 350 years of 350 years of in the convent and 50 years in Hollywood.
Are there any films that early on in those days that really had a lasting impact on you that you remember?
Oh my God, that's growing up. Oh my God, yes. I mean, James Dean was my hero, was my idol, of course. I actually came here with the mind that it's one of the reasons why I wanted to come to America is to visit his grave.
And did you?
Yes, eventually, after 15 years.
Where is James Dean's grave?
In Fairmont, Indiana.
You went all the way to Fairmont, Indiana to see James
I was
Dean.
working with Lisa Crone in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, who's Lisa Crone?
Lisa Crone is a Tony Award-winning playwright.
She's not cool. She
She
doesn't have an OBIE.
She has a Tony. Yes, but that was the first time I was in Louisville at ATL. I didn't have any, I didn't have the
ATL. You have to tell us what ATL is. What is ATL?
The Actors Theater of Louisville.
Thank you.
Yes, ATL. But anyway, so I was telling them about my dream of one of the reasons why I came to America is to visit James Dean's grave. And so finally, the whole cast said, let's go to Indiana on our day off. We rented a van. We drove to Indiana, and I have photos with him putting flowers on the grave. And it was wonderful.
Listen, that's much more noble than I went to Paris and went to Jim Morrison's grave. I'm jealous that you went to James Dean's grave. I didn't know that it's there in Indiana, but next time I go through, I'm going to go.
Oh, yeah. And that town where he grew up in Fairmont, Indiana, is smaller than the town that I grew up in, actually.
Well, that's really interesting. So you and James Dean have a small town upbringing in common, and James Dean may very well be the reason that you are the actor you are today and that we're having this conversation.
I don't think so. I was in love with him, but like most teenagers at that time, James Dean was the heartthrob.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
That's a fine way to behave. Well, you know who he takes after.
Well, I'm just going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say for the purposes of this interview today, were it not for James Dean, we would not have Ching Valdes-Aran.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. You're in Coriolanus. It's written by Shakespeare. It's translated by Sean San Jose. Do you remember the first Shakespeare play you saw or read, or where you first heard the name Shakespeare?
Yeah, in school, high school. Yeah, but I was scared of Shakespeare. I didn't understand. I'm still scared of Shakespeare up to now. I'm not dying to do Shakespeare, but the Shakespeare plays that I've done is like, I was actually shocked every time I get a Shakespeare role.
So how did you find your way into Coriolanus?
Coriolanus? Because
Yes.
Sean San Jose recommended me.
And how do you know Sean San Jose?
I know Sean from, we have a friend. I met him in San Francisco way back when through Jessica Hagedorn, who's a very close friend of Sean. And I don't think I've ever done any of his plays at all.
Sean, so Jessica Hagedorn is
a playwright.
Playwright.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a novelist and a poet and a performance artist.
Based where?
In New York City.
Uh-huh.
But they both grew up in San Francisco in the Bay Area. So that's how they know each other. And that's how I met Sean way back when. But I've never worked with Sean until now.
This is the first thing you've ever done that Sean was involved in.
Yeah. He's also a good actor.
he is, from what I hear, a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
And I know he's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he did say that you were the one for Volumnia. Why do you think that? Why do you think he recommended you for Volumnia? What is it about Volumnia that comes to you perhaps naturally?
Well, I played Imelda Marcos before, so.
Aha. When was that?
And Medea, and Clytemnestra, and who else? Lady Macbeth. All of those characters, strong women. So maybe that's why he chose me.
Did you really play Imelda Marcos?
Yes.
And can you tell us about that?
It's an adaptation that Michael Greif, when he was artistic director of La Jolla, he asked Jessica Hagedorn, who wrote the novel Dog Eaters, to make it into a play. So she commissioned her to do it, and we premiered it in La Jolla, and then eventually moved it to the public theater.
So the La Jolla Playhouse in La Jolla, California, Michael Greif, I never can get it right.
And he directed it there. And then when it came to the public in 2001, Michael also directed it. This was 1998 when he commissioned it, and then it moved to the public in 2001.
So tell us about, now, were the Marcoses in power when you were growing up, or does that?
Oh, yes.
What was it like growing up under the Marcos regime, and what was
I was here already during the Marcos regime,
okay.
But Marcos comes from the province that I grew up in. My parents and him were compadres, they would call it, compadres. He was the when he was only a congressman then, and my dad was one of his campaign during election. And I remember me growing up at 7, going in, listening to Marcos' speech in the town plaza all night long. He was a magnetic speech. He was an incredible politician. And then when he married Imelda Marcos, I was already here when he was president, basically, in the 60s, before martial law. So I wasn't there during his thing. But Marcos and Imelda were godparents of my sister.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So can you speak candidly about Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos? And nope.
I'm the only one in the family basically who has protested against them. You
protested against your sister's godfather.
Yeah. I don't care.
What changed? What made, can we talk about this? Can we get into politics in the Philippines and the Marcoses? Let's just tell, okay, so folks who don't know anything about the Marcos family, and can you in a nutshell tell us about the Marcoses, what happened and how they're the downfall of the Marcoses?
Imelda, it's Imelda. I blame Imelda. I blame Imelda. She, first of all, she is the illegitimate child of a very rich family, so that
has a chip on her shoulder.
Yes, and she was a beauty queen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she must. Yeah, and from the Romualdez family. And I think that once she became who she is, she has to acquire. It's just all greed and power, and she has to acquire all of that money and greed and power. And
to show that she belongs, that she deserves this
oh
place.
yeah, I think psychologically that's what I think happens to people like that.
You fall in love with a man, you marry the minute you were born, because you start again dreaming you're kind of a dream man, and suddenly here he comes. Then you say this is love at first sight, and actually this was the very same being that you had been dreaming about. And so the president put it this way: he had been window shopping for some time, so he knew exactly what he wanted.
So this promising politician, Ferdinand Marcos, marries Imelda Marcos, rises in power, or he's risen in power.
He's already risen. He is already in power.
Okay.
When he was already a senator when they met.
And was he doing good things at the time? Was he good?
Oh yeah. But also at the same time, politics, I don't trust politicians. You can't help it. They can't help it. If you're an honest politician, there's no such thing as an honest politician.
So just the dirty business of politics corrupts in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very Shakespearean, Ching.
I think that's, whatever, but it's life. They can't help it. My father, who is tried to be a politician, and forget it.
What, he was too honest?
He was too honest.
Too good.
Yeah. And Marcos at that time betrayed him. So they had a falling out.
How? How did he betray your dad?
Two Valdeses was going for the same, during nominations or something like that.
Primaries,
Whatever. And so Marcos promised my father this and that, and then he supported the other one. But he promised my father, who's a doctor, he said, I want to offer you the Department of Health, the director of the Department of Health of the Philippines. And my father said, fuck you. So that.
I just have to interject here for a second, because after this interview, Ching emailed me. She wanted me to know that her father actually never used the F word. So it really, really meant a lot when he used it in this context. She said that she had a very strict Catholic upbringing, and she never heard her father curse in his whole life, nor did she hear any cursing until years later when she was living in New York. She didn't even know what the F word meant. So that just goes to show how extreme her father's emotions were in that moment.
Marcos even told my dad to appease him. This is just rumors, because I just heard. It's not true, but this is all gossip. Marcos said, Manong, meaning my older, brother. You will be the one who will deliver my first child, if you want. And my father said, fuck you.
Well, all I can say is you're lucky, right? Because your father may very well have ended up in jail, right? Because the Marcos regime became so corrupt.
Oh, no, I don't. Maybe, no, they wouldn't. He wouldn't.
He would have gotten out. He just was too good. I mean, I can't imagine what this must have been like for you. You were in America witnessing all of this happening to somebody that you knew very well. I mean, that was very close to your family.
I didn't know them very well. I was just a child and a teenager, and then I came here in my early 20s, and then I was apolitical for a while, except that there were a lot of political asylum, political
seekers,
artists that got that came here during the martial law.
Was your mom and dad?
A lot of artists came here because they were, during the martial law time. And that's how I learned all of these things that was going on in the Philippines too.
Wow. Were your parents still alive at the time?
Oh yeah, my yeah.
And how did that, how did
Oh
it
no,
go for them?
nothing. It but now forget it. The Marcoses has not. The Marcoses, the oldest child is running for president.
What?
Oh yeah, they never got out of politics. Mrs. Marcos, even when she was indicted for stealing the money, here she was never imprisoned. She was house arrest. She became governor of the Manila, and her daughter is governor of my province, and her first son was running for vice president last election, and now he's running for president.
Amazing. Well, I know we'll probably see Eric Trump or one of these Trumps come up for president in one of these days. You are the perfect person for Volumnia, especially hearing all of this, because your son, tell us about Coriolanus. Tell us about your son in Coriolanus, the character.
Oh my God, my son is mama's baby.
He's a mama's boy.
Mama's boy. He'll do anything to please Volumnia. No, my good soldier, up. My gentle marshes, worthy Caius, and from your deeds, with honor now newly named, what is it? Coriolanus, I should call you. Oh yes, your wife here.
Ah, my quiet Grace. Would you laugh if I was in a coffin, since you weep at my triumph now? Oh dear. Crying eyes are for querulous widows and mothers losing sons.
Now the gods crown you.
And you're still alive?
I don't know what to do. Oh, welcome home, and welcome, General, and you're welcome all.
Your hand, Mother, and yours, my quiet Grace. Before I truly return home and rest, I must pay visit to our city nobles, who have given me this homecoming here, and to these added honors.
I have lived to see my very wishes realized and manifested just as I envisioned. Yet there's one thing lacking, which I do not doubt our Rome will create for you.
Know this, dear Mother, I'd rather serve them in my way than sway others in their ways.
Do you think Coriolanus would have been a good leader if he had, I mean, where did Coriolanus go wrong?
You know what? I forgot already. Long ago.
He's all about it. Well, talk about an egomaniac. I mean, at least this is my take on Coriolanus. You know, look, I'm easily swayed one direction or another, but listening to it now, many times.
To listen to it now.
Oh my God, I listen to it all the time. I have to. It's my job. But I also, every time I hear it, I like it better. I think it so speaks to our times, like all great classic plays, right? You hear what's happening and you're like, my God, that's just like today. They stormed the Capitol in Coriolanus. They stormed the Capitol, the people.
Yes, that's true.
You know, and then Coriolanus, he hates the plebeians, the people, and wants to. He doesn't like democracy. You know, he doesn't want to have to go to the people to get their voice.
Right. He's Trump.
Yeah.
At that time.
In a way, yeah, but very much more of a military hero. You know, somebody who's so steeped in the military that he just has disdain for anybody who hasn't been in the military, and then, just hates that he has to actually answer to the people in any way, shape, or form. You know, and then the way that the crowd, at least in this series, it sounds like the crowd is so malleable and just kind of goes, is so easily led and misled. You know, that's where I see a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Was it fun doing it? Was it fun playing Volumnia?
I had a great time. I learned a lot only because it's so different from doing it in person on stage, and I hardly ever done any acting just by voice. So it was very interesting for me to be able to act with just the voice. How do you do that? Yes, it's, and you can't move. You can't, you can't even help yourself to act with physical, because I'm used to being a physical person. That's my background. Basically, I act with my body a lot also. So without that, what was interesting for me is to be able to project the intention and the action and the emotion and through the voice.
When you're doing it, if you could draw a comparison, is it sort of similar to closing your eyes and going inward, or do you have an image of the person in your mind that you're speaking to?
Yes, of course. You do your homework, of course. First of all, you know the story, you know who you have to build a biography of who that character is, even if it's imaginary for yourself as an actor, and draw it from there. You know what you want, who you are, where you are, and the circumstances of the story. Right? So then forget about it.
You forget your homework.
Yeah, forget your homework, because you have to make sure that in a scene it can always change, because depending on who the other actor gives you.
Yeah.
Your partner in the
scene. It might not be what you thought it was going to be.
Exactly. So you have to, yeah.
But that work doesn't go to waste, right? That work is
no, of course not. Of course not. You have already built your history or biography of who the character is, and then, and then go from there, and then leave it alone, like let it all go, because it doesn't help being stuck with what you think you would do, because the other actor might have another idea.
Is this all intuitive to you, or did you do formal training as an actor?
No, I'm sorry. I never did go to school.
What? You never went to school? How do you know how to be an actor?
No, I know.
I'm joking. How do you learn? How do you?
I took one Shakespeare class at HB. That was my first. I had met when I was in transition between dance. I didn't know what to do, and then I met some actors downtown at La Mama and the Pan Asian Rep, and that's how I started. Then they basically said, "Let's go to HB one summer," and
how old are you at this time?
Don't ask me.
Were you a kid?
Nope. This was 1981.
Then I won't ask how old you were, but it was
1979.
Wow. And what was it like at La Mama? Did you say La Mama?
I met Pan Asian Rep. I met the Philippine Educational Theater Group. La Mama was my first home. And then Ellen Stewart was my first champion.
Who is she?
Ellen Stewart was the founder. You know she is.
Yeah, but maybe whoever's listening, don't forget there are people listening.
Oh, that's right.
We hope.
Okay. Ellen Stewart was the founder of the La Mama Experimental Theater downtown. It's still existing now. She passed away in 2009, maybe, or later. She just had a birthday the other day. And she basically, she's an international, well-known experimental theater founder, director.
So you were were helping artists.
I wasn't helping nothing. I wasn't helping nothing. I was just a groupie.
Oh, okay. You were
I was just hanging out
because
with the artists there, and that's how I started with experimental theater.
What is experimental theater?
Experimental theater is basically what you would call now a multi-interdisciplinary type of theater where there's movement, there's music, there's some music, songs, movement that incorporates everything. Maybe some video, maybe not. At that time, there were no videos yet so much that's incorporated in theater. It's mostly music, dance, songs, and some words. And then Minushkin that's experimental.
Minushkin, another director
from Paris.
Mm-hmm.
In that, and then also Grotowski. I actually met Peter Brooks, Grotowski, Tadashi Suzuki
Mm-hmm.
through Ellen. She brought in all these masters.
Okay, so you've named like 4 legendary directors
and
theater
Cantor.
makers. The what?
And Tadeusz Kantor from Poland.
So all of these people, all connected to Ellen.
La Mama.
To La Mama.
Right.
And you met them all.
Yes.
And
I did never work with them.
But you met them.
I did some workshop with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. For free.
You did it for free. They let you do it for free.
Yeah, Ellen did it. It was through Ellen, basically.
This was just sort of like bringing artists together to create intuitively in collaboration.
Right.
What was there something that you experienced as an artist in collaboration that you could point to as like this was this seminal kind of thing for me? This was, without this happening, I wouldn't, X, Y, and Z wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have become the artist I am today.
When I first saw Tokyo Kid Brothers, those companies from all over the world at La Mama, because she would bring them every year, like Tadeusz Kantor. I saw him at La Mama, right? And I knew that was the artist that I would go visit in Poland. Eventually, I was able to do that. And
Tadeusz Kantor, and would you call him an actor, a director, designer?
No, he was the director. I would not miss any of his productions.
And what was it about them that?
Well, Poland at that time was occupied, right, by Germany and all of. They had a lot of war, but his productions were so powerfully. It was, I don't know, no words, and he was on stage all the time, and he would like conduct what is going on stage. They were all in. They were all the costumes were like either they were all in powdered gray, the whole body, and some of them are naked or not, or it's all about revolution and torture of their country, what was going on.
When you say no words, do you say does that mean there's no words to describe it, or they actually spoke no words?
They spoke no words.
It was all bodies in motion.
Yeah.
And music?
Yes.
Incredible.
So years later, when I got the Fox Foundation fellowship, my proposal was to be able to go see Minushkin, to visit Minushkin's school, Peter Brooks, and Tadeusz Kantor in Poland.
And you did it? You went to see all of them?
Yeah.
So you bring this back with you as an artist. How did acting happen for you? I mean, it sounds to me like you would not even call yourself an actor up front.
Oh, a long time, yes. I didn't.
You called yourself a dancer?
I called myself a performing artist.
Aha. And now
when I was in transition, it took me a long time to just call myself an actor. And
is that what you call yourself now? An actor?
I still call myself performing artist.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
An artist is not one thing.
Yes, that's right.
It begins for you where? So your manager calls you up or emails you and says, Ching, you have an audition. They want you to go in for whatever it is. Is that when the work begins for you?
No.
Okay, when does the work begin for you?
It's basically, for a long time, I didn't have an agent for like 10 years or so. Basically, I believe that it's through work, when people see your work, or it's through recommendation, or except for television and film. Mm-hmm. But in theater, it's mostly who recommends you or who knows your work, or that's how I did for a long time.
Okay. So let's say a director, let's say it's a director that we know. So Sean San Jose, who now is the artistic director at the Magic in San Francisco. He calls you up and says, Ching, I would love for you to play, I don't know, what's a dream role? Do you have a dream role? Okay, it's a role you've never heard of. And you say, so then what happens?
Then
you check your calendar, you see if you're available.
Yeah, and also I give them to my manager.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the manager works it out with Sean. You are available.
If I like the role.
Right. So you get the script, you read the role, you like the role.
Right.
And then you call your manager, you say, yes, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then do you start working on it right away?
Depends on the schedule.
It's happening in a month. First rehearsals in a month.
Oh, yeah. Start thinking about it, mulling over in my head.
Ah.
You just read the script and basically let it just sip in. Mm-hmm. Like it's like when I'm paint something. There's an empty canvas in front of you, and for a long time you don't know what to do. Basically, you're just staring in space forever, but it's mulling over in your psyche or whatever.
You're a painter as well.
Yes.
So, do painting and acting, do you ever find yourself painting when you're working on a role?
After.
Oh, interesting.
This is my little studio.
I know you're always working. I know, like, whether you're working, even when you're not working, you're working.
I know. I know. It's like tiring. It's like, how can I rest? I'm doing meditations now just to like, empty my brain.
Well, that's important. I was going to ask you, what's your touchstone? How do you reset as an artist? Is meditation your reset?
Now, my yoga, Tai Chi, sleep meditation, morning meditation.
How do you do sleep? What is sleep meditation?
Sleep meditation it helps you relax all your body. It's the same thing as morning, but it's all scanning the body to make everything soft and be present, and just the breathing mainly. Same thing
It's
as
self-guided. You do this yourself. You're not listening to something.
No, I have to listen to something.
Oh, you do? What do you listen to?
YouTube.
These meditation guides on YouTube?
A lot.
Any particular one that you recommend?
I like Sarah Raymond, and some other, I choose whichever. There's like 2 hours, 3 hours. I do the 30 minutes if it's too late.
Sarah Raymond.
Sarah Raymond.
S-A-R-A?
Sarah-Raymond, but there's so many of them.
Anything else on the horizon?
I don't know. I never worry. I don't want to worry about that.
You try to be in the moment, and whatever comes to you, comes to you.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, even now I'm just saying, oh, maybe I'll just retire from theater.
Do you write?
I have I've written 2 plays that's been in the drawer for years.
Well, dust them off. Bring them out.
Nah, that's another. Oh my God! But I got a grant to write something. I haven't started it yet.
Well, you have to do it, otherwise they take the money back.
I haven't gotten the money yet. I haven't. I haven't asked for it yet because I don't know. Yeah. So it might be interesting.
Well, here's what I would like. I would like it if you painted something from just reflecting on Volumnia and Coriolanus.
Maybe. Because that's what I do. It's after, but I didn't play. It was just so short that it didn't really
it didn't sink in. You felt like it didn't.
In.
You didn't.
And it was so truncated.
Okay, we could keep talking. Ching, you said you didn't like doing interviews, especially about yourself, and I feel like we could go for another hour. You're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like we only scratched the surface. There's so much more about you that I'd love to know. Any advice for those folks that may be looking to learn from you? Young people.
Young people, follow your heart. Listen to, love yourself. Listen to yourself, your instinct, and keep yourself healthy.
Amen. Thank you, Ching. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you go. I don't want to let you go, but I'm going to. That was Ching Valdes-Aran, who plays Volumnia in Coriolanus. You can learn more about Play On Podcasts by going to Next Chapter Podcasts. That's NC, N as in next, C as in chapter, podcasts with an S.com. You can hear all kinds of interviews with artists who have collaborated on all of our previous series. And coming up next, we've got King Lear, starring Keith David, directed by Eric Ting, and translated into modern English verse by Marcus Gardley. We're going to have some amazing interviews as part of that bonus content series, and I can't wait to see you there.